Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Wa ba'd. So welcome to our virtual Friday Family Night. We're going to be talking today about Ramadan, which is the month coming up in about 2 weeks. We're going to be talking about fasting, and we're going to be talking about the Zakah. So these are all things that Muslims should really know about, and maybe get a little bit refresher about some of the guidelines, some of the teachings that Islam encourages us to do or requires us to do. And I'm going to also be mentioning something this year that is different, that we never get to experience. And that's going to be because of the shelter-in-place orders, the quarantine orders that we have for many people who are going through the novel coronavirus crisis or pandemic that we have here. There's going to be some adjustments in how we observe Ramadan. There may be some adjustments in how we observe fasting. There may be some things in how we change the way we pay zakah. So I'm going to try to mention those as much as possible. And I'm going to open it up to questions as well. And I'll be taking your questions. You could type it in the chat box if you're there on YouTube. And we'll try and read them and try and get them answered. Now, but let me start by saying this, that this is going to be, we should look at this Ramadan that's coming up where the masjid is going to be closed. Almost most mosques in the entire world are going to be closed. And for a very important and good reason, because we're being tested by Allah with this COVID-19 pandemic. And it's really important that we look at this as a unique opportunity. Really, I mean, if you think about it, you're never going to get a Ramadan like this probably ever again. And inshallah, maybe we kind of hope that we don't. But this is a unique opportunity. This is from Allah, first of all. So the fact that this is being sent by Allah is something that everyone needs to keep in perspective. Allah wants us to get a lesson from this. So we're going to be doing certain things differently in Ramadan according to his guidelines that he set forward. But at the same time, understand that there's a blessing in it. There's also a unique opportunity. So this is, you can call a rare Ramadan, or you can call it a once in a lifetime unique Ramadan that maybe no one has ever experienced in the past, and maybe no one will experience in the future, but you and I get to experience it this way. So rather than looking at it as something that we're deprived of, look at it as a test from Allah. Allah has put us in this situation, and we're going to experience something which is wholly unique, and this is an opportunity to observe Ramadan in a very different way. So with that, let me get started. So first of all, there's quite a few things that we need to know, or we need some refreshers on when it comes to these three topics: Ramadan, fasting, and zakah. And a lot of this content is usually taught in one of our courses at University. If you ever want an on-demand course or something, you can go there and check it out. So Ramadan and fasting, first of all, what's special about Ramadan? Well, Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed. So that's what makes it special. We're commemorating the Quran by observing the month that it was revealed in as being special. And because of that, in the month of Ramadan, there should be more emphasis on the Quran, reading the Quran, reflecting on the Quran, talking about the Quran, reciting the Quran. Everything should just be Quran. Like that's the theme of the month, right? Sometimes people kind of forget and they start thinking the theme is about food or lack of food or something like that. That's a part of it, but that's not the entire theme. The overarching theme is the Quran. So just keep that in perspective. Now we're also going to be fasting in the month of Ramadan for Muslims. And fasting is an act of worship. It's almost like prayer. So if you think about it, Muslims, we're supposed to be praying 5 times a day, every single day. Well, in Ramadan, we're supposed to be fasting every single day for the entire month of Ramadan. Ramadan is a month in the lunar calendar, right? It's a 9th month in the lunar calendar. And fasting is really an exercise in self. So we're going to be fasting in order to get closer to Allah, And by doing that, we're going to actually build our self-control and build some discipline, able to stay away from the things we're avoiding in Ramadan. What do we avoid? Avoiding food, we're going to be avoiding drink, we're going to be avoiding intercourse. This is what fasting is about. Avoid these three things. And these three things are probably the strongest human desires that people have. There's people get tempted. Some people get tempted with cake, ice cream. People get tempted with coffee. They need to have their daily coffee. They need to have their tea. But the strongest desires, even stronger than that, is just food in general. It's just drink water in general, and intercourse is one of them as well. It's something that's a temptation, which, many people fulfill their desires in an unlawful way outside the bonds of marriage, which is very problematic. It's sinful as well. So these desires are strong, and we are practicing taming the strongest desires so that we can tame the smaller desires. If we can do the big ones, we can do the small ones, right? That's kind of the logic behind it. And it brings us closer to Allah. So who needs to fast in Ramadan? Basically, all Muslims are supposed to fast in Ramadan as long as they're mature. Mature meaning that they're adults. So all adult Muslims need to fast. Now, children, when it comes to fasting, they should be taught, just like prayer. Muslim children should start praying at the age of 7. They should start fasting at the age of 7. Now, what does that mean, start? That means try it out. Maybe you can handle one fast, half a day of fasting. Just start kind of experiencing what fasting is like, and you start praying and all of that. By the time you reach the age of 10, you should be fasting. You should be fasting every day in Ramadan. You should be praying 5 times a day, right? So this is kind of the age at which parents should make sure that they're fulfilling their responsibility towards their kids. And once someone reaches that age of adulthood, which, this is kind of the guideline for parents. Parents should make their kids be fasting everything and praying all 5 by the age of 10. From the perspective of the individual, it needs to be done when they reach maturity, which is maybe age 12, 13, 14, 15 max, right? That's the age of maturity in Islam. And there's details about how to figure that out. But basically, adults need to fast. Children are exempted from fasting, but once they hit the age of 7, they should be encouraged to try it out. And once they hit the age of 10, they should be doing it. People who have, who are not fully mentally aware or conscious, they're not required. They fall into the category like children. But if they want to try it out too, they can do that as long as there's no harm. People who are free from illness, which basically means if you're sick or fasting is going to make you sick, not just discomfort, but actual sick or illness, then you are exempted from fasting. So basically, anyone who's not sick or is not going to get sick from fasting, they're exempted. Everyone else would need to fast in Ramadan. Now, when it comes to illness, there's different types of illness. There's a little tiny cough. There's a little bit of a sore throat or something like that. If a little bit of a headache you may have, and you say, I'm kind of getting a headache. Something small, which is really easy to deal with, you should try to fast. You should be fasting. An illness is basically where your body's you're not going to be able to function, and you're probably going to get more sick by fasting, and it's going to delay your recovery if you fast, right? So if it's something really, really small, yeah, you should probably fast. If it's something medium, you make a decision based upon what you know about your body, consult with your physician, and then make a decision. If it's a very serious illness, don't try and be a tough guy or a tough girl. Don't fast. And what you're going to do is you're going to make it up later on. So a lot of people have a misconception about this. They said, oh, well, if you're sick and you don't fast, then you just, feed some poor people or something. No, that's not the case. If you're sick and you're going to recover, God willing, inshallah, you're going to make it up after Ramadan as soon as you get it. Chronic inability is another category. So if someone is chronically ill, right, they have a diabetes condition, they're very old in age, they have something else, where they're not able to fast at all because they need to constantly take medicine or whatever reason. they fall into a separate category. They're not in the category of just like normal illness. They're in a category of long-term chronic inability to be fasting. So they're exempted from fasting. And those are the people who, if they're not able to fast because of this, they're going to feed a poor person every single day of fasting that they missed. Now, how do you do that? Basically, the easiest way would be either if you know someone, you give them some meals, or you give it to an Islamic charitable organization that handles this for you. So whatever the amount may be, $10, $15, $20, per day, you give it to them for each fast that you miss, and they will go ahead and distribute it on your behalf to the people who are in need of that. The third one, or the next one, is not traveling. So if you are, as long as you're not traveling, you have to fast. Means if you are traveling, people nowadays right now are not because of what's going on. If you are traveling though, for some reason, then you don't have to fast. Now, if you're traveling, you're taking a trip somewhere, you jump on an airplane, you jump on a train, you're going somewhere far, if it's very easy for you to fast, then you should. But if it's going to be if it's challenging, then you shouldn't make life difficult on yourself. That's pretty much the criteria. So like sometimes if you're traveling from Los Angeles to New York, and that's not a good example because New York is like the most hard hit with the coronavirus, but say you're traveling Los Angeles to London, okay? Or somewhere along those lines. You're kind of going forward in time. So what's going to happen is you're going forward in time because the airplane is moving, you're crossing time zones, your fasting is actually going to be much shorter. So you may actually want to fast because it'll be easier. But if you're going vice versa, London to LA, it's going to be longer, especially if you leave in the daytime. So make that decision based upon the amount of difficulty that's involved. And lastly, a woman who are menstruating or they're in their lochia period after birth, postpartum, period of bleeding, they are also exempted from fasting. So they don't need to fast. It's going to be difficult for them. There's blood loss, all of that stuff, but they will make up the days of fasting after Ramadan is over, just like the category of illness. So determining the month. So when does Ramadan start exactly? So basically the way Ramadan starts is very important to know when it really starts. It's basically a month in the lunar calendar, which means that it has to do with the sighting of the moon, right? So the new moon crescent on the 29th of Sha'ban, if you see it in the previous month, you look up in the sky and you see the crescent, that means the next month has started. In the Islamic lunar calendar, all months have 29 or 30 days. So if you don't see it on the 29th, then that means Sha'ban is 30 days long. The next day will be the 30th. The following day will be the first of Ramadan because no month can have 31 days. So it'll automatically be the month of Ramadan. Right? So you look on the 29th of Ramadan, you look to see if the month is over by checking for the new crescent for the next month. If you don't see it, Ramadan is 30 days, and the following day will be the day of Eid celebration. If you see it on the 29th, then the following day will be Ramadan is over. So Ramadan could be 29 days or it could be 30 days. Now, you need a system. Remember, this is not based on the birth of the moon, which is scientifically, calculatable. It's determined. The birth of the moon is something we know exactly. In terms of the sighting or the sightability of the moon, this is kind of an approximation. It's not very clear cut. So basically, you need a system, and what you should do is really you follow your local scholars and Islamic organizations that you trust, and whatever they announce, they say, Ramadan is starting on this date, follow that. Ramadan is ending on this date, follow that. And there's going to be a little bit difference of opinion. Don't make it into a big deal. Allah knows everyone's intentions, and Allah knows that He set up a system that was not designed to be 100% deterministic, meaning 100% predictably calculatable. So don't, lose sleep over this, okay? Try and make sure your family is united in your house. Maybe your extended family is united, but if you're not united with every single country in the world, it's not the end of the world. It's not a big deal. Just follow your trusted local scholarship. All right, so requirements for fasting. So what is required in order for your fast to count? All you need to have the intention. What intention really means is just you have the intention in your heart. You are not refraining from food and drink because you're dieting, because you want to, lose a few pounds. You're not doing that for Allah. You're not really fasting. That's just, if your doctor tells you, I want you to fast, don't eat, don't drink, and then come in for your blood test, right? If you did that, and then you're like, yeah, maybe, that was my intention. That's why I did it. Maybe that'll suffice for Ramadan. No, you make the intention in your heart. As long as in your mind you understand, in your heart you know that you're fasting, whether it's the night before you go to sleep and you wake up late, you're not eating, you're not drinking, and you had the intention to not eat, drink, or have intercourse, then you're fasting. So you don't have to pronounce this out loud or something like that. You can, but you don't have to. Second thing is no eating or drinking. So pretty simple. Don't eat or drink anything. That means not one sip of water. That means not one ibuprofen or acetaminophen, or for those people who are joining us from the UK, paracetamol or whatever medicine. Even if you say, I'm not going to drink it with water, I'm just going to pop it down, my throat. Still, it falls into the category of eating. It may seem nitpicky to some people. Basically simple. Don't eat, don't drink anything. Okay. And there's no intercourse, right? So yeah, you can kiss your wife, you can kiss your husband or something like that. Try to, avoid being too intimate, because then it becomes extremely tempting. So you should some level of reserve there, but it's not about any type of intimacy that's forbidden or that breaks your fast. It's intercourse in particular. And the last thing is no vomiting intentionally. Very few people would intentionally want to vomit. Maybe if you're sick, which you're probably going to break your fast. But basically, for some reason, if you were going to vomit for whatever reason, if it's accidentally, it's not going to break your fast. If it is intentional, it will break your fast. All right. So what does not break your fast? Those are the things that break your fast. Now, there's a lot of questions about, does this break my fast or does it not? Does this break my fast or does it not? So I'll answer some of the most common questions here just to make it. Number one, if you forgetfully eat or drink something in the daytime, it will not break your fast. And, let's say all of a sudden, you walk downstairs and you're like, I'm really thirsty. And you're so used to just drinking, a little bit of water. You drink some water and then, you finish, and then you kind of think about it. And then a few minutes later, you're like, oh no, subhanallah, I was supposed to be fasting. You were not conscious at all. You just totally forgot that you were fasting. It's not going to break your fast. What do? Just keep on fasting, right? And you say, well, what about the water you drank? Gift from Allah. Don't try to intentionally make yourself forget. Like, come on, I'm so thirsty. Forget that you're fasting and then you drink. Obviously not something like that. But when it comes to if you genuinely forgot, it's okay. The moment you remember, even if you had the water in your mouth, you're drinking it, you have the water in your mouth, then you remember, spit the water out, right? If you got some food in your mouth, spit it out, right? You don't need to vomit or something, but what you ate, but just spit whatever you have out and resume fasting. And you don't even need to make that day up. And that's the rule there. You mistakenly eat or drink at the wrong times, right? The same thing, it will not break your fast. So what that means is basically you're looking at your clock and, fasting is supposed to start at 5:03 a.m. and you just absentmindedly don't look at your watch and you ate till 5:05, right? You ate past the time. Or you broke your fast a few minutes early, you looked at your clock and you forgot to change your clock, it's 3 minutes off, okay? It falls in the same category as forgetfulness. Okay, there's difference of opinion on this, but this is one of the legitimate opinions. Tasting food without swallowing it, okay, does not break your fast. Now, you only do this for a really good reason. You don't just go and be like, I'm so hungry, I guess I can just taste the food, and not eat it. No, that's not what it means. Like if you're cooking something, let's say you're working in a restaurant and you have to taste the sauce or something that you're going to make, you can taste it with the tip of your tongue and then spit it out, maybe rinse your mouth or something. Don't swallow it. But let's say you have to, check food for your baby or something. You need to taste it, to make sure that it's good, hasn't gone bad, it hasn't spoiled or something like that, that will not break your fast if you do it for a good reason. Chewing food without swallowing it. So again, why would you chew food? Usually this would be for like a child. You need to chew something for your child and then take it out of your mouth and put it in there. Technically, you're not eating that food, so it wouldn't break your fast, but should only be done for a good reason. If you're chewing gum that's flavored, generally what's going to happen is you're going to swallow the flavor, so that counts as like drinking. So don't do that. If you're technically chewing flavorless gum, I'm not sure if people really do that or not, but assuming that you did, that wouldn't break your fast technically, as long as you're not swallowing anything. Using eye drops, using ear drops, using nose drops, they're not going to break your fast. Even using an enema, it's not going to break your fast because it's non-nutritive. And not all of them go directly to the throat canal, which will go down into your stomach. Medicinal injections don't break your fast. Patches don't break your fast, in patch or something like that. An inhaler, there's difference of opinion, but generally it's not going to break your fast because they're non-nutritive in value. And they're not going through your mouth, which is your normal way in which you would eat something. Now, if brushing your teeth also is not going to break your fast technically, but you need to be very careful of two things. Number one, try to brush your teeth before you start fasting, right? Number one, and make sure that you don't swallow any water or swallow any toothpaste when you're brushing your teeth. And don't, use too much toothpaste or mouthwash or something like that, because you kind of have, it's almost like falls in the category of tasting a lot of food without a necessity. So if you got some toothpaste that has like less of a flavor or something like that, that's going to be better to use that. Giving blood is not going to break your fast. You need to give blood, although it can weaken you. So just be careful before deciding whether to give blood while fasting. And smelling perfume is not going to break your fast. But if you are smoking, right, you are inhaling a certain type of smoke into your lungs and going into your body. First of all, Ramadan's a great time to quit smoking. It's not anyways. And smoking, according to many scholars, will actually break your fast. So whatever you're smoking, any of them, tobacco, hookah, cigarettes, marijuana, vaping, whatever it is. But at the same time, it can invalidate your fast. So don't smoke while you're fasting. And rinsing your mouth with water is not going to break your fast. Taking a bath, taking a shower is not going to break your fast as long as you're not swallowing any water. Swimming, same thing, as long as you're not swallowing any water. And if you forgetfully do it, then or accidentally do it, it's overlooked. If you're going to do some deep swimming where you keep on swallowing a lot of water, then you shouldn't be doing that, because you're putting yourself in that situation where it's not required for you to do that. What are some of the things that are recommended? Well, first of all, you're supposed to Islamically wake up and have a very early meal. So when you have an early meal, right before the time of dawn or before the time of Fajr prayer comes in, that is not only something you can do, it's something you should do. It was something encouraged by the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. So you should wake up, you should have that early meal, try to eat something healthy, try to, avoid too much caffeine, dehydrate you, try to avoid, oily, greasy foods. Make sure you drink enough water in the morning, something that's going to, give you enough energy throughout the day. So that's something that's highly recommended to do. It's also recommended to immediately break your fast. So if you're driving somewhere, you're driving back home from work, you're like, I might get stuck in traffic or something. Yeah, it's okay. I'll make it in time for Maghrib. I'm not that hungry. I'll go ahead and break my fast 30 minutes late. You shouldn't do that. What you should do is be prepared, bring some dates or some water with you in the car so that you can break exactly when the time is over. So basically, we're doing this because Allah taught us to do this. He told us to do this. So when he tells you it's time to start your fast, you start your fast. When he tells you it's time to break your fast, you break your fast at the time it's supposed to end. Don't try to be like, I can do more than this. That's not the right attitude to have. All right. Next thing is what to break with. So when you break your fast, It's actually recommended, highly recommended, to break with dates. So if you can get a date, 1, 3, 5, 7, an odd number is recommended. Break your fast with some dates. It's very healthy for you. It has certain natural sugars which will, give you the energy boost that you need after you've been fasting the entire day. It'll help you, stay up a little bit more for, for prayers at night. And if you don't have dates, then break with either something sweet that's kind of similar to dates, or break with water if you have water and you don't have dates, or for some reason you don't like dates, right? So that's that. And then when you're breaking your fast, recommended to make this dua or this supplication, which is ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر. What that means is the thirst is gone because you just broke your fast. So now you're saying thirst is gone, the veins are moist, right? Like I'm rejuvenated in my body, and the reward is affirmed. We're going to get rewarded for what we just did if Allah wills, inshallah. So you say this before you break. Even though the thirst is not gone because you have not actually drank water yet, basically what it means is the thirst is about to be gone. The veins are about to be moist, and the reward is affirmed or about to be affirmed, inshallah. Okay. Whether you say it in Arabic or you say it in English or any other language, that's also fine. There are some other supplications you can substitute for this as well. Next one is, let me just move my cursor. It's making up fast. So basically, if you miss a fast in Ramadan, especially for a valid reason, like illness or something like that, you're going to make up that fast at your earliest convenience, right? So you should try to make it up as soon as possible. Don't delay so long until the next Ramadan comes or something like that. And then people start panicking. They're like, I have like 15 days of fasting to make up, and I only have, 16 days until Ramadan. Like, you shouldn't wait that long normally. So make it up. You don't have to make it up the day after Ramadan ends. I mean, the day after Eid, actually, you're not supposed to fast on Eid. But you have a little bit of time, but try to make it up pretty soon, okay? Don't try and delay too long. Preferably, it's good to make them up in order if you can, but it's not a requirement. So even if you needed to space them out, that would be fine. If you break your fast without a valid reason, like getting sick or traveling or something along those lines, you have basically violated the sanctity of the month of Ramadan, and that's a very serious thing. So if you're getting tempted and you're thinking, I'm fasting, but it's 4:30 p.m. I'm just so hungry. I just want to eat something. It's okay. It's not a big deal. I'll just ask Allah for forgiveness. Well, think twice. First, Ramadan is a very serious thing. Fasting is a pillar of Islam. It's one of the very important practices in Islam. And also, if you violate the sanctity or holiness of the month of Ramadan, then you're going to actually have to make a penalty by fasting 60 days plus making up the day that you missed. So if you're sick and you have a good reason for missing fasting, you just make up the day that you missed, right? But if you're just like, I just don't want to fast today. I feel rebellious. I just don't want to, or I'm just really hungry, or I didn't wake up in the morning. I didn't get my coffee, or my cup of tea. So because I woke up late, I'm just not going to fast today. Well, there's a penalty, and the penalty is you're going to have to fast 60 days as compensation, as a penalty, in addition to making up that day. So think very seriously about whether you really want to do that or not. And of course, it's sinful to be not fasting in Ramadan. Taraweeh prayer and i'tikaf. Taraweeh prayer is a prayer which we pray only in Ramadan. It's highly recommended to pray this prayer in the month of Ramadan. Now, normally, the way that I explain this is that Taraweeh prayer is where all the Muslims gather inside a mosque, inside the masjid, and they pray together, and they try to finish as much of the Quran as they possibly can throughout the entire month during that prayer. You can pray 8 units, or you can pray 20 units. So 2 makes 8 units, or 2 times 10, which will make 20 units. Either one of them are fine. But this Ramadan, since mosques are going to be closed, what you can do and what you should do is you're going to pray Taraweeh at home, Either you pray with your family or you pray by yourself. You say, but how can I do that? I can't do that. Of course you can. You're going to pray 8 units or 12, 20 units. It's just like praying Fajr prayer. You're going to recite whatever surahs you know from the Quran, and you're going to pray. So even when you say, well, I only know 6 surahs, how am I going to pray 8 units? I only know 6 surahs. And I need to recite a surah in every single unit or rak'ah of prayer. Well, you can repeat, right? Let's say you only know 1 surah. You can recite that same surah in every single unit of prayer. Right? And maybe Ramadan is an opportunity to memorize a few more of these short surahs, So you can do that. And you should do that. And what's interesting is Taraweeh prayer began at home. I mean, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he actually was praying at home as well. So it became a community practice. He tried to pray in the mosque. It's kind of a long story. I'm not going to go through the details, but be content with the fact that at the end of the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him, he actually prayed Taraweeh prayer at home for a specific reason, right? And I'm not going to go into the details of that, but if he prayed at home, it means it's very valid to pray at home. It's valid to pray in the mosque. It's valid to pray at home. You're not able to pray in the mosque this year because the mosques are closed for a necessity, then it's okay. You're actually doing what the Prophet, peace be upon him, did at home. So I know we lose that feeling, we miss out on some of that, but don't let it get so much to you. This is a one-time opportunity. Pray Taraweeh prayer at home and do it. Now, when you're praying Taraweeh prayer, don't try and go on YouTube and look at one of the old recordings of a Taraweeh prayer and stand behind your computer and pray. That's not valid, right? So do your own Taraweeh prayer, and if you don't have that much Quran memorized, what you can do is, after you pray or before you pray, then you sit down and listen to recitation of the Quran. You can listen to your favorite Quran reciter on a video reciting, and you can follow along. You can open up the book, and you can follow along with the Quran. That is all fine, right? So you can kind of mix that prayer separately and the kind of feeling of being with the reciter or following on with the reciter. You're just going to be separating the two of them. Normally we have them combined and it's in the mosque. The difference is now the two of them will be separated, and instead of in the mosque, it's going to be at home. 8 or 20 units of prayer, that comes in after Isha time. So after you pray your Isha prayer, you can pray Taraweeh prayer. Taraweeh is recommended, okay? It's recommended to do so. If you can't, it's okay, but it's something you can only do in Ramadan, so you should really try to get it in. The last 10 nights of Ramadan, there is a night called Laylatul Qadr. Laylatul Qadr means the night of power, night of decree. And what it is, it's basically the most special night in Ramadan because it is the night in which the Quran was revealed. Now, what's interesting about this night is that we don't know exactly which night it is. So it says in the Quran, in one of the surahs near the end, it says it's the reward or the greatness of this night is like 1,000 months. You get like the reward of 1,000 months. If you're worshiping Allah, you're doing extra prayer, you're reciting Quran, you're going to get that much extra reward on this night. So it's something you really, really want to take advantage of, right? It is in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. It's in the last 10 odd nights, more likely to be in the last 10 odd nights. Now, the question is, why do we not know the exact day or the exact night of Laylatul Qadr? And how can this be? Well, what happened was, to make the long story short, is that Allah concealed this knowledge from us for a specific reason. Why? Because He wants us to try to really focus on trying these last 10 nights to put in as much effort as we possibly can, right? Before Ramadan is over. So instead of if someone was told, hey, you know what, it's a 27th night, or someone said it's a 29th night, what people would do, they wouldn't do anything extra on any of the other last 10 nights. They would just pick that one night and they would just do extra prayers. And then when it comes to the 25th and the 23rd and the 22nd and 21st, they wouldn't really do much. So the reason why Allah hid it from us is basically as an encouragement to say, you know what? It's in one of these last 10 nights. You should strive in all of them, do a little extra in the odd ones. And it's one of these, and I'm not going to tell you which one it is, but here's the thing. Even if you don't know the exact night, this is still Ramadan, Ramadan's not, this is all in Ramadan. And Ramadan, whatever you do, it's multiplied. So what's going to happen is if you're striving during those last 10 nights, you're still striving in Ramadan. Whatever you do extra is still going to count as extra, even if it doesn't hit the extra. So Laylatul Qadr is the extra, and Ramadan is the extra. Actually, another way to put it is Ramadan is extra, the last 10 nights are extra, and Laylatul Qadr is 3 extras. Okay, that's one good way to look at it. All right, so try to do that and try and pray extra during those times. Right, 21st, which is the odd night, really starts on the night of the 20th day. I just want to make that clear. So understand that the day in the Islamic calendar starts after sunset. It doesn't start at midnight. So for us, at midnight, the next minute, it's going to become AM. It's the following day. The date changes. For Muslims, in the Islamic calendar, the day changes the moment the sun sets. It's actually technically the next day in the calendar. Okay, so that's kind of the way it works. So that when you look at the day, the 20th day of Ramadan will be the 21st night because the sun is set and now night is starting. And then there's something called i'tikaf. And i'tikaf is seclusion in the mosque. And basically what that is that, when the mosque is open, which is not this time, but the last 10 nights of Ramadan, it is highly recommended for people to go and seclude themselves, isolate themselves, quarantine themselves inside the mosque and just stay in there, basically. Don't leave for any reason unless it's necessary. Let's say there's no shower inside the mosque. You need to take a shower. Okay, quickly go take a shower and come right back. So there's no food for you. Okay, go get your food quickly and come right back. Spend the night in the mosque, spend the day in the mosque. That's what seclusion is. This is something that the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his companions used to do. It's highly recommended. And many people, they've never had the opportunity to do this in their life because of work and because of everything. Maybe that part of the wisdom of this seclusion can actually be actualized this year because people are secluded already. They're already isolated in their home. So look at it from this perspective. Your home is now your mosque, right? The place in your house where you designated for your normal prayers, you put your prayer carpet there, or you cleaned it up, or you made it look nice or whatever. That's your prayer area. That's your little masjid inside your home. So now you could potentially be doing i'tikaf or seclusion in your house and kind of get some of the benefit of being in a place where prayer is going to be offered on a regular basis, right? Because the mosque is closed. So look at it from that perspective. If you can do that, fantastic. In fact, this will be one of the more comfortable i'tikafs, and inshallah, Allah will accept from us, even if you do a proper i'tikaf by staying in that area for the last 10 nights of Ramadan. Fitrah. So Fitrah basically is a type of charity or sadaqah. And what happens is that near the end of Ramadan, there's a charity that is required to be paid by all people who can afford to do so. And what you do is you give that charity specifically for people who cannot afford to celebrate the day of Eid. Eid is the celebration that comes after Ramadan, the day after Ramadan. It's the festival. Everyone gets together. They put on their nice clothing. They put on perfume. They get some gifts and stuff like that. There's some people who cannot even benefit on that day either because they're stuck having to work to earn a living. They can't even take off one day. Otherwise, it's going to, won't be able to survive properly. It's going to really harm them. Or they can't afford, some of the things to celebrate properly. So what's going to happen is that a certain charity is going to be paid near the end of Ramadan from every single Muslim who can afford it. And that money is going to be distributed to the poor Muslims who will be able to benefit from the day of Eid from the charity that was distributed for them, right? Or they can get gifts, or they can get clothing, or whatever. Maybe they can take the day off of work, if they get enough to cover that day, right? So they can enjoy Eid just like everyone else enjoys the day of Eid. So everyone should be paying who can afford it, even including children. So a man is considered to be the head of the household, financially responsible for the family. So a man is required to pay on behalf of his young and minor children, if his children have not reached the age of adulthood. A woman is supposed to pay on her own, and a man pays on his own, but the man is responsible for paying for the young children. The distribution of that, I kind of mentioned, it's going to be distributed, it's going to be given to people who are in need so they can benefit from the day of Eid. And it's better to pay early. So don't wait till the last day. Try and pay, maybe 10 days early, 15 days early, so that the organizations who are distributing on your behalf can actually make sure that money is properly allocated and can get to the people, who are in need. Otherwise, if you could hand it to someone who would be in need, then you don't really need to pay that much early. But for most people, they're gonna give it to an organization that will distribute it on their behalf. It takes some logistical work and all of that on their end. So it's better to pay early to make sure that they have enough time. Eid al-Fitr is the festival of fast breaking, festival of breaking fast. Basically, when Ramadan ends, going to be a day of celebration, right? So first of all, Ramadan, we are celebrating the Quran, right? When Ramadan's over, we're celebrating the fact that we celebrated the Quran, the fact that we were able to fast, the fact that we were able to pray extra. So Eid is really a party day. It's supposed to be a day of partying. So, if you're just going to sit at home by yourself, well, technically you're going to be sitting at home probably. But normally, if you just sit there and do it like every other day, you just have the same routine, you're not partying properly. So you know what? There's a time. There's 2 Eids every year, and you're supposed to party. You're supposed to have fun. You're supposed to enjoy yourself. This is an opportunity for, parents to, decorate their house, get some good gifts for your kids. Many kids, they're addicted to Christmas and Easter and Halloween and stuff, because they're like, it's so nice and there's so many gifts and this whole culture, a little bit materialistic, maybe a little bit overboard, but this whole consumerist culture behind those holidays, many Muslim children end up falling for this idea that, these holidays are awesome. We love Christmas, we love Easter. Because it's just so cool and there's so many gifts and everything. Well, if you're able to, if you're able to keep that away, from your children being influenced or people being influenced, then great. And if you find it difficult, then maybe this is your opportunity to make Eid even nicer. Then give nicer gifts than what other people would get on Christmas, and maybe that would be a way to kind of downplay the influence of these other consumerized, capitalized, materialized holidays, which are religious holidays, which Muslims do not celebrate and are not supposed to be celebrating. We're not supposed to be celebrating Halloween, Christmas, Easter, all of that stuff. So we should be careful. This is an opportunity. So utilize that opportunity to the most extent that you can. You want to put lights on your house. You want to put lights in your house. You want to decorate for the entire Ramadan. Make it look nice. And especially for the day of Eid, everyone should dress up. Now, here's the thing. Even though you're going to be staying at home, we're probably not going to have an Eid prayer or an Eid gathering. It's okay. Put on your suit or your thobe or your nice dress or whatever. Put on your perfume, even if it's just, just your spouse or your kids that are going to be smelling you. Just try to capture that spirit, even though you're stuck at home. Right? Try to keep the spirit of Eid going. So that's the day after Ramadan. That's when Eid is. It's the 1st of Shawwal, which is the next month, the 10th month in the lunar calendar. The communities, the mosques would normally come together and they would pray in one big area. Now, because that's not possible, people are just gonna be praying their normal prayers. And we'll give further instructions about, what options you have for the once in a lifetime unique Eid prayer opportunity, if there's some options that you have. Otherwise, don't worry about it. The prayer is going to normally be 2 units, but we'll give you an update. Scholars are considering what potential you have given the quarantine, given the lockdown and all of that stuff. So we're still kind of discussing what ideas work within the framework of Sharia or Islamic law. And we hopefully will be giving you updates in about 2-3 weeks or something like that. Next it comes to zakah. So that's pretty much fasting in Ramadan. When it comes to zakah, zakah is a pillar of Islam, almost as important as prayer, right? So anyone who has enough money, they are obliged, they are required to pay zakah. So in a nutshell, here is how it works. If you have the amount of 3 ounces of gold, which as of yesterday, that would be $5,133 or more in your savings account, in your, your bank account, your stocks, or your mattress, in your car, in your wallet, combine all of that together. If you have more than $5,133 and 1 year ago, you had 1 lunar year ago, 354 days, 1 lunar year ago, you had more than the amount of 3 ounces of gold during that time, you are required to pay zakah. So what does that mean? That means you're going to pay 2.5% on all your productive assets that you have. What are productive assets? I'm going to explain to you right now. So cash is a productive asset. Why? Because you can take that money and you can invest it. You can buy some merchandise, you can sell it and make some more money off of it. You can buy some stocks and hope, well, maybe not in this economy, but normally you'd be able to buy some stocks or some investment and try to make money off of it. You probably still could. But here's an example, right? So you have furniture in your house. You calculate your sofa, it's a leather sofa. You calculate your kitchen table. You calculate your bed and everything. It comes out to about, if you had to sell it, it'd be like $2,000, right? That is not productive because that's a personal item that you have. So you're not going to factor this into your zakat. You do not have to pay any of this money because your bed is not productive. Your sofa is not going up in value, right? Unless it's not changing in value, or it's just going down over time. And there's no way to utilize that sofa because it's stuck in being used in your personal interest. So you're not going to count that. Your vehicles, even if you own them, let's say you have 2 cars, residual value of each is $12,000. You have $24,000. You completely own them. Still considered to be personal property. If you have a vehicle that you're not driving, it's not something that's considered to be a productive asset. So you don't count it as your zakat. You have electronics, laptops, tablets, cell phone, comes out to be $5,500. Personal property, you don't count it at all. Cash in your house, in your pocket, in your car, let's say it's $1,000. That is productive money. You could have taken that cash and you could have invested it somewhere, somehow, and made some more money off of it if you wanted to, even though you chose not to. So you will be paying zakah on that and you will calculate it. You have a checking account and in your checking account, you have, let's say, $2,000, almost like cash. So it's considered to be productive. You will pay zakah on that. Let's say you have 100 shares of Tesla or any stock, Apple, Amazon, whatever it may be. I coincidentally mentioned tech companies, and it's just more. But anything, whether it's some food company, whether it's some oil company or something like that. Maybe oil would not be the best thing to buy. Something. And let's say you have it in your E-Trade account, your Ameritrade account, your Charles Schwab account, or whatever. Its value is $3,000. On the date, you're going to be paying zakat. It is productive. Why? Because you invested in it. You're hoping for capital gain plus dividend, maybe if there's a dividend. It's considered to be productive wealth. You can sell that, get your capital gains. So it's like buying some merchandise that you intend to sell. You will be paying zakah on it. You have 100 shares of Amana mutual fund stock in your Roth IRA retirement account or your 401k or something, valued at, let's say, $2,000. A lot more than that because people save up for retirement. A lot in the stock market recently, but inshallah, hopefully it'll recover for all of you. $2,000, let's just say. Productive wealth, you're going to be paying zakah on that as well. Even though technically you don't have access to that money until retirement, you have incidental access, but somebody else has access to that wealth, which is basically your fund manager. So if they wanted to liquidate that stock, they could liquidate it, they could buy something else. So it's in a container that you voluntarily put it in for some tax benefits. So you'll be paying zakah on that for that. And let's say you have some cryptocurrency in your Bitcoin wallet, $2,000, that is productive wealth. So what you'll do is you'll add up all of this together. You will not add the $2,000 because personal. You'll not add this, not add this. You add the 1,000 plus the 2,000 plus the 3,000 plus the 2,000 plus the 2,000. So what is that? 4, 7 makes it 10. So $10,000, if you had all of this, you'll multiply by, basically you'll divide by 40, okay? You divide by 40 and you're gonna get, that's 2.5% of $10,000. Right? So what would that be? Anyone just try and work it out in your head? I know you can't talk and I can't hear you, but $10,000, 10% of $10,000 would be $1,000. 1% of $10,000 would be $100. So you just put the 2.5 in there and you get 250. So you'd be paying $250 on $10,000 that you have. If you had $100,000, you'd be paying $2,500 for zakah, and that's going to be paid once a year, and that money is going to be going for your zakah. Okay. Next thing is, what about loans? You can deduct loans that are due right now. Okay. So people have long-term loans on their homes and their cars and whatever it is. You're not going to deduct the entire thing. If you have $500,000 loan in your house and you have $100,000 in the bank, no one would be paying zakah then, right? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make you poor. So we're talking about loans that are due right now, meaning your current installment that is due can be deducted. Let's say you have $10,000 money. It's productive. You're going to count that. You have you're financing your car with a halal finance contract at $199 a month for 16 months, right? That's a long-term thing. Only the monthly installment is due, and the moment it's due, you probably pay it off. So you're not going to subtract any of this loan, this quote unquote loan on your car. This is a long-term loan on your car. You're not going to subtract any of that. When it comes to, let's say you have a halal home mortgage, for example, $2,200 a month for 150 months. You're not going to take that entire thing and subtract. You're not going to subtract any of it, because the moment it becomes due, you're going to pay that installment. Let's say you have a few day waiting period or something. As long as the bill is due and you haven't paid it, you can subtract it. Otherwise, you can't subtract the entire thing. Let's say you have some halal student loans as well, right? And $200 a month you have to pay. You're on a standard 10-year repayment plan. You're not going to subtract the entire thing, because that is not considered to be due right now per se, right? So in all of these cases, you're not going to subtract that from your zakah amount that you're going to be paying. You have a credit card balance that's due right now, right? So it's due, you got billed, and you have a grace period of 15 days to pay. Yes, you can subtract that, your zakah amount. So let's say you have $2,000 has been billed already. You already spent that money. You owe that money. You're going to have to pay it in the next few days. You take the $10,000, you subtract what you've already been billed that you're going to be paying, even though you haven't paid it, and then you're going to go ahead and pay the zakah on the remainder. So you have $10,000 minus the credit card balance of $2,000, you're going to pay zakah on $8,000. $8,000 divided by 40, that will give you the 2.5%, that to charity. Now, zakah can only be given to certain people. It's people who are poor, people who have debts that are due right now, so they have to pay off their debts now, people who are stranded travelers stuck somewhere in the middle of nowhere, they don't have access to their money, things like that. If you look at 2019, the poverty rate for a single family was, for a single person was 12,490. For a family of 4 was 25,750. Many people fall into the category of being poor. Right? There's different ways to determine what poverty is, but there are people who are in need. So this money is supposed to be going only to people who are in need, and you can either give it to them yourself directly or let a responsible Muslim organization distribute it for you, or an individual distribute it for you. Don't take like United Nations and have them, start managing people's zakah, although they want to, and they tried to, and they launched a zakah program. That's not, this is something that Muslims should be handling for themselves. This is not something we should be outsourcing to just. Now, this zakah money has to be given to these people, like I mentioned, and it cannot be given to a non-Muslim. You can give charity to a non-Muslim anytime, and many people are in need right now. We should be giving them charity. The zakat, which is 2.5%, cannot be going to a non-Muslim, because it makes sense. Muslims are paying it, for Muslims are receiving it. Non-Muslims are not paying this out. It's given by Muslims, it's for Muslims, but Muslims can always give and should be giving charity to anyone who's in need, regardless of their religion. It cannot be given to anyone who's going to somehow benefit the one who's giving it. So it cannot go back to you somehow. Benefit cannot be given to you. You can't give it to your children. You can't give it to your parents. Why? You're responsible for your children. So your young children, you can't be like, oh, I'm a 7-year-old, here, Mariam, here's your zakah money that, you're in need because you don't have that much money. Here you go. Buy some toys or some food for yourself, which I was actually supposed to be buying for you, right? So you can't give that. You can't give it to your parents because as a Muslim, you are required to take care of your parents and you're required to take care of your children, okay? And likewise, you can't give it to your spouse because you're required to take care of your spouse as well. If you give it to an organization and somehow they're giving you, I don't know, a gift basket, thank you for giving your zakah money to us to distribute to the poor on your behalf. We're glad you chose us instead of another organization. Here's a nice little gift basket with some little fruits and nuts and stuff like that. You can't take that. You can't take it because you're getting a benefit from your own zakah money that you're giving out. You can't take any gift or anything in return for that. So just be careful about that. You can't give zakat to a non-person. Okay, it has to be given to a person. So you give it to an organization that's going to hand it to a person that can utilize the money. You can't give it to a masjid because a masjid is not a person. You can't give it, and it serves people who are also not in need. So you can't give it, and it's going to be benefiting people who don't fall in the category of people who can be eligible to accept zakat. You can't give it to build a bridge. You can't give it to build a hospital, right? Because these are non-people. But what you can do is you can give it to establish a fund, and that fund is going to be restricted to be giving it to people who are in need. So let's say there's a hospital. The hospital has a fund. That fund, when someone walks into the hospital, they say, oh, by the way, you can't afford the hospital bills? Don't worry. We have a zakah fund for you. We will use this zakah money to offset all of the bills you potentially had. And that can be done. And there's ways to structure that so that even some hospitals who only serve poor people can have a specific fund that's pretty much going to take care of whatever their needs are. You can't give it to a lazy person. Don't give it to someone who's fraudulent, just claiming. You do a little bit of due diligence on which organization you're going to trust. Do a little bit of due diligence on the type of person. Are they just not wanting to work? Right? So you don't have to go crazy, go out of your way, but do a little bit due diligence. If there's some red flags, be careful. Maybe check Charity Navigator or something. Check what their overhead is. Is their overhead so high that a lot of the money you're giving in zakah is not actually going to the poor people, and it's so much high overhead administrative costs or something? Maybe you investigate a little bit. Don't be overly skeptical, but don't be underly skeptical where you're like, anyone who tells me anything, even if I see something wrong, I'm just going to give my money. Do some due diligence like you would do in anything else, any other aspect of life. You go to a pharmacy, something seems strange, some weird products in the back or something, you ask questions. So go ahead and do that due diligence. When it comes to taxes, you cannot pay your taxes with zakah money and then offset it and say, yeah, I used that to help my taxes. Why? It's pretty obvious. Number one, it's not going to Muslims. It's not always going to needy. Even if it's going to a project which may be helping the needy. I mean, the United States, a lot of our money ends up going to a military budget, not always for a good cause. Libraries and roads and everything, they're going to be used by people who are not in need and those who are in need simultaneously. So it doesn't meet any of the conditions of zakah. So that's not a reason, although some people try to make an excuse for themselves when they do that, but that should not be the case. Okay. So what we've covered today is a really super fast, condensed summary of the main things that you really need to know about fasting, zakah, and Ramadan. The way that I've presented this is that, look, a lot of things that are black and white, very clear. Having to fast in Ramadan is a requirement, black and white. Fasting starts at dawn, ends at sunset, very clear. Some things are ambiguous. There's some different opinions, right? So the idea that if you're traveling, you have to fast part of the day, whether you use moon sighting versus calculation to determine when Ramadan starts and ends, things like that. What are you going to do if you learn something different than what I just presented to you? You hear something different. Well, you have a few options. If you didn't know anything about these topics, just take everything that I've told you, and hopefully you trust what I'm saying, and you can reference it and check it. If you're semi-educated about this subject, then maybe you need to learn a few clear-cut rules that you didn't know. Like some people, they're like, oh, they think they know about Ramadan. They're like, oh, I didn't know women when they're on their period, they're not supposed to fast. I learned something new, so you learn something new, great. If you learn something wrong, you can correct what you learned that was wrong. There was people who come to me all the time and they're saying, I was told that, I can give charity, I can feed a poor person if I have the flu and I'm sick. No, that's not the reality. That's not the way it works, unless it's a chronic illness. So a lot of people have misconceptions. Hopefully some of these were clarified. And if you're well educated and you know a lot of these things, maybe you learn another difference of opinion, and you can follow whichever one as long as it's a valid opinion. So we'll leave it at that, and I will go ahead and start taking some. So let me just okay, and we will start taking some questions. Okay, so first question here. Let me see here. Um, Okay, so first question is the dua, the supplication when breaking the fast. The question is, what do we say when we're breaking our fast? So the dua is ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله. And what that means is ذهب الظمأ, the thirst is gone or about to be gone. وابتلت العروق, and the veins, your body is now moist. It's about to be moist because you're going to be drinking. And وثبت الأجر, meaning that the reward is fixed, guaranteed from Allah, inshallah, God willing. That is the dua, the supplication. Let's take a look at the YouTube stream. Okay. Do we still have to pay the fitrah even though there will probably be no Eid prayer this year? That's a really good question. So again, even though there's no Eid prayer, we still want to have celebration. So Eid is not just the Eid prayer, but it is the actual day itself. It is the day of Eid. So yes, people should celebrate in whatever limited capacity they're able to celebrate. They should wear their clothes. They should put on perfume. So the answer is yes. They should still be paying the fitrah. And given the fact that we're technically in a recession now here in the United States and in many other places, people are even more in need right now. So definitely we should be still paying that fitrah. Okay. If anyone else has questions, you can go on YouTube. And once you sign in, you can actually ask your questions in the chat box if you like. If there's any other questions, you can go ahead and ask right now. Okay. Do you still pay the makeup fast if you're making them up? So the answer is no. You're either going to pay or you're going to make up. You're not going to do both. So pay meaning you're going to be feeding poor people, giving money to feed poor people for the fast you missed. That's only if you have a chronic illness that you're not likely going to recover from. If you have a temporary illness that you're likely going to recover from, you're just going to make them up. You're not going to be paying anything. Let's see, any other questions from online? Okay, well, if there's no other questions, remember, you can always contact me at Mustafa at IIOC.com. That's MUSTAFA at IIOC.com. Or you can ask a question through our website, which is IIOC.com. Or you can make an appointment with me if you want to speak on the phone or via video conference. Just go to IIOC.com and click on services and appointment request. you can automatically make an appointment. And I hope and pray that all of us reach the month of Ramadan safely. We ask Allah to help us to benefit from this month. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it very beneficial for us and to not allow the exceptional circumstances that we're in to detract from our spiritual growth and getting closer to Allah. Ameen. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nastaghfirukallah wa natubu ilayk. I just got one more question, so I'll answer that. How can you make up fasts from more than a year ago? You just go ahead and make them up. So you just count the number of fasts that you had missed and just start making them up. If you have so many that you can't make them up before Ramadan starts, make up as many as you can, make up the rest after Ramadan, inshallah. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.